Hopefully your insurance cards are all up to date because it's time once again for your favorite quarterly podcast. The podcast that only comes 4 times a year. It's episode 3 of the Seasonal Anime Checkup. Once again, I am your host, Jared, and we're going to go over, summer anime. We're going to look ahead to fall anime. Basically, we're going to look over the seasons of anime. And this time around, we're going to be joined, in a sense, by a couple of guests that are going to give some insight on what they thought of summer anime. We'll be joined by my co-host, or it's not my co-host, but the co-host of one of the other podcasts here on our network, Mark Out When to Stark Out. We'll be joined by Chris. He'll give us some thoughts on a couple of shows he watched, and one show that we both watched, I believe. And then I went to Tumblr. Yes, that fancy social networking site that everybody loves. Couldn't tell that was sarcastic. One person I mutually follow, and they follow me, is Tumblr user. I can't speak today for some reason. Shorty-Cake. I know her Haley. She's going to give some insight on some of the shows she watched as well. So first off, we're actually going to go straight to Chris, where he's going to tell me about. Also, be forewarned, I'm going to butcher probably like half the pronunciations on like all these titles, names, etc., etc. And Akame ga Kill. So let's go straight to that. Now, joining me at this time and making his first ever appearance on the Seasonal Anime Checkup and giving yourself the triple crown as far as podcasts on our network goes, Chris, welcome to Seasonal Anime Checkup.
Thank you. It feels great to hold this prestigious triple crown of the podcast.
I mean, you're just like me now, where you've just shown up on every single podcast, essentially.
Ourselves out, man.
Basically, yeah.
Basically.
We're the ones doing the hard work around here.
Yes, busting our arses. Yes.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
So you're here to talk about some animes you watched. There's one that we both watched, but 2 of them I didn't watch, so you're going to explain them to me.
All right.
You get the fun duty of telling me what these shows are about.
I'll attempt the best way I can. Okay. I guess I'll talk about Akame ga Kill. At least maybe I'm pronouncing that right.
Yeah, good question.
Akame ga Kill? Who knows? Anyways, great anime so far. It's on, I believe I'm about to start the 9th episode of the first season.
Not even completely done with it.
Oh, no, it's not even finished yet. It's still going. It's a good show. It's about this guy, basically, this kid. I guess they're always kids. Arrives in the imperial capital, and like his whole goal is to basically he wants to earn money for his village, and he wants them to be better off. And he has 2 friends that come along with him, and he basically gets stranded in the streets. Sum this up: a family, this little girl who's like really wealthy, royalty, whatever, takes him in, and from there, basically, he meets this group called the Night Raid. I don't want to give away too much, and
you can go into spoiler talk if you want. I mean, this isn't really a spoiler-free podcast.
Okay, well, the little girl and her family end up being people that take in people like him, impoverished, like village people and everything. Take them in, and then they torture them and kill them, and I don't know, I think eat them or something like that. Like really messed up. And this group called Night Raid are basically there to destroy the capital, the city, the corrupt government, basically like the Robin Hood for everybody else. And so he joins the Night Raid, and this anime is all based on them taking out the wicked evil government, Jared. The wicked evil government.
Sounds like a plot point you could put here in the good old United States of America, and it would be like a blockbuster movie.
Yeah, definitely. I thought about that. Like, that totally makes sense for a movie or a TV show or something. Rising up against the government.
So you obviously haven't watched all of the episodes that are available right now, but do you think it's good for what you've seen so far?
Yes, I love it. The first episode, I was kind of iffy, as I am with a lot of stuff, I guess. I guess everybody kind of is. But it has everything. It has comedy in it. It has gore. It's entertaining to, if you love the fighting sequences with swords and weapons and shit. It's pretty graphic. And it tugs at your little feeler strings. So
that's what we always want, is to tug at our feeler strings.
Our feeler strings. The last episode, episode 8 that I watched, did almost have me shed a tear. So 8 episodes in, I was ready to shed a tear. I actually, let me rewind. I think episode 6 I did cry. Episode 5 or 6, it's very depressing.
You know if it's going to make you shed a tear, it's probably doing something right.
If I'm shedding a tear over an anime, it must mean it's great. So go watch it.
Unless you're just like really mad at it and you're just really sad.
Yeah, true.
All right,
True.
so that's going to do it for this segment, and you'll be joining us in a little bit to talk about Glass Slip. So look forward to that.
Ooh, yeah.
And we're back. Well, hopefully that was a good segment because I'm recording this before I actually do those segments with Chris. So they could all just be, who knows. I'm just going to hope they're good. So next up, we're going to talk about Aoharu Ride, or Blue Spring Ride, I think that was the English title that they used on Crunchyroll. I'm going to share what Haley had to say about this. I got notes in like a script here. It's very professional compared to like every other podcast I ever do. That's not what she said, by the way. Quote, Aoharu Ride, that sounds like a tongue twister. Aoharu Ride? Whatever. Was one I dropped. It had a kick-butt premise and 2 really interesting main characters, but the plot sort of petered out after the obnoxious best friend character started a stupid love triangle. I can kind of agree and see where you would drop this show at, especially, 2/3 of the way through when it was like, we're going to build up these 2 main characters, we're going to build the characters of Ko and Futaba, I would believe how you pronounce her name, and we're going to essentially push their relationship towards the forefront, and then Futaba's going to befriend Yuri, and she's going to basically help her change herself, and then kind of is going to introduce a love triangle, which I'm really a big fan of, like these really dumb lovey-dovey type shows, but then they all go with the prototypical cliche, let's insert a love triangle storyline here. So that happened, and that was that kind of brought the show down, I think, in my opinion as well. And especially during, I want to say, episode 8 or 9, one of the main focal points was that Ko goes off into this, shady part of town and hangs out with these shady people. And Futaba did not like that. So she pretty much confronts him about it, and they kind of go off to, this riverbank to talk about it. And then Ko basically does, he basically almost fake assaults her to show her what it would be like if someone assaulted her. And I was like, that's kind of up. That's totally not cool. So that really kind of soured me on the show as well. And then they kind of really tried to push the love triangle thing in the next episode, but it was more like, Ko's mother died and he has a shrine for her, not a shrine, but a kind of a special place in his home for her. And they really kind of pushed that the last few episodes, especially. It was like, this is why he's so standoffish towards everyone, why he doesn't really want to care about anything, because his mother was a big deal to him. He had to go off and live with her after, I guess, the parents divorced, and basically watching her frail, get really frail and just die really messed with him and just completely messed with his entire core being. So I want to say the show, it finished better than the mid-season lag, or it wasn't really lag, it was kind of just you're going really cliche with a lot of these plot points here, but it ended stronger than I was anticipating, to say the least. But I was really banking on that show being probably, I guess, one of the better shows of the season, but then it was kind of petered out, but it still finished strong. Up next, I'm going to talk about Baby Steps, tennis anime, which was the second half of Sports Sunday. Sports Sunday was fucking amazing for the past 2 seasons, where we had Haikyuu and Baby Steps. But Baby Steps was the tennis anime, which started back in spring season. Yeah, that would be right, 'cause spring is before summer. Basically, it followed the story of Maro Eiichiro, who was this super smart student who decides to start playing tennis, and then just, that's the way the story goes, essentially. The first half of the season it kind of drags a lot. It's really slow pace to start off with, and especially this is what happened during the spring season. It was just, a lot of people probably would have dropped it halfway through episode 5 or 6 because it was really slow paced. Not a lot was happening, especially for sports anime. But then the back half of the season, I would say, what happened during the summer was it really made up for the spring portion of that. More action. You had more matches, essentially, and, you had more drama. Like, you got to see the blossoming relationship between Maru and Natsu, which it's a fun relationship to watch because they're both really awkward, and I don't think they both really know what they're doing, but it's just fun to see, like, how they interact with each other, and yeah. Also, the way that season ended, I was like, are they just going to keep going? Like, is this really the season's finale? Because they just, like, they kept on, like, making it super open-ended, excuse me, and even, like, the preview for, like, the final episode was like, Maru and Natsu are going on a date, and stuff's going to happen. I was like, this does not seem like a season's finale to me. So it really wasn't like they left it on a cliffhanger or anything. It's like, this is stuff that's going to happen. And then at the very end, they're like, oh, hey, season 2, spring 2015. I was like, yes, give me more tennis anime. I think a big reason, though, that like I really like drifted towards this anime a lot is because I played tennis for a big chunk of my life since like basically from like when I was 5 years old up to when I was a freshman in high school. So I've played a lot of tennis in my life, and a lot of the stuff that they show in this show, that's a really weird sentence to say, but a lot of the stuff they harp on, especially like during like practice and drills and stuff like that, I'm like, I've done a lot of that sort of stuff, so I know exactly like what they're doing, why they're doing it. But I'm really happy that's coming back for season 2 in spring. It's got to have more tennis, more fun. Up next, we're going to talk about Tumblr's favorite anime of 2014 summer and probably summer 2013 as well. Swimming anime, Free Eternal Summer. Let's go to Haley and see what she had to say about that. Quote, the other show that really impressed me this season was Free Eternal Summer. I'm assuming the season wrapped up the Free franchise, and it was wrapped up beautifully. That was in all caps, by the way. Skillful pacing, incredible character development, and a really touching ending made this one of the best shows I've seen in a while. Tears were shed. End quote. So I never watched the first season of this, obviously. Well, maybe not obviously, but if you listen to the previous episode of the Seasonal Anime Checkup, I kind of basically ran down how the season went according to me by viewing it through Tumblr, which basically I got like screen caps and GIFs of that entire show just like thrown at me all of last summer. But I kind of had a gist of like what exactly happened that first season, so it wasn't like going into the season be like, who are these guys? Why are they swimming? What's going on? Help. So it definitely helped, I guess, understand things a little bit better than maybe just going in blind. But I actually really enjoyed the show, even though it's less sports anime than like probably most sports animes, considering it's basically eye candy for the ladies. I mean, most animes like, let's do all this fan service for guys, and yeah, boobs everywhere. So there you go, ladies. You get to see half-naked dudes like all throughout this show. But one thing I really criticized about this show, especially watching throughout, was the character of Haru, which I hated this character throughout the entire run of the season. Basically up to the season finale. It's like, this guy is essentially, he's like super brooding for the sake of being brooding. He's squandering opportunities just because, oh no, I don't know what I want to do, but I've got all this talent. And coming from someone who's been in like the sports world, I've seen people like that basically just like, who are super talented, but squander like the opportunities they're given. And it just me the off. And I just hate people who are just super talented, but then they're just like, I just don't want to do this. Whatever. I don't care. It's just ridiculous. And that was kind of a major plot point in this season, especially because they wanted to help Haru find a dream, essentially, of like why he wanted to swim. Because essentially, I guess throughout the first season, he was like, I like being in the water. I like to swim. That was basically it. So a good chunk of like the last half of the season was him being like super, what is the word I'm looking for? I guess he was really brooding, essentially, and getting into fights with like his friends and stuff over this because he didn't think they understood and all that. And then Rin takes him to Australia, which is where he spent, I guess, a big chunk of his youth learning to swim professionally and all that sort of stuff, which listening to people speak English in a Japanese anime was a weird experience, especially since it was like they got actual Australians to do voice acting for the show in Japanese. Well, they didn't speak in Japanese, but for a show that's in Japanese, to have like to get people to speak the native language of Australia, which is English, obviously, and get actual Australians to do with it, it just seems crazy to me. Most of the time, if you hear English and Japanese anime, it's just like you can tell it's like non-native English speakers speaking it essentially because it sounds really disjointed. And another show we're going to talk about later is victim of that. But I thought it was just a really cool touch to add to the authenticity of it and to do that. But basically, the Australia plot point there was to like show Haru. Basically, it was to show Haru like, or at least help him push him forward towards finding this dream, and basically he finds it, and he wants to go swim competitively finally, and then they go do their relay in the season's finale, and they succeed, and everything's all happy, and it's a really good way to wrap up, I guess, like Haley said, it's like a really good way to wrap up this franchise, and it definitely felt like a series finale where it's like, well, this person did this person went off and did this person went off and did this, and so on and so forth. So highly doubt there's going to be a season. I almost said a season 3. Wow. A season 3 of Free. That's almost a tongue twister in and of itself. But, you never know. There could be, but I don't really know what else they could do with this show in a 3rd season. If anything's going to get a season 3, Kyoto Animation, season 3 of K-On! Do it. Up next, let's talk about possibly my favorite show of the season, Gekkan Shoujo Nozaki-kun. Let's see what Haley had to say about it. My standout favorite from the summer season was definitely Gekkan Shoujo Nozaki-kun. It was a really refreshing spin on the shoujo genre, sort of reminiscent to Ouran High School Host Club. Characters were a strong point in this show. Even the side characters were well developed and likable. A heck ton of ships too. So many ships. Nozaki Sakura for life. And life is spelled with a Y there. So this show was essentially weird to me at first because going into it, I figured it was going to be like, a rom-com, essentially, if you want to like westernized genre it. And it kind of starts off that way, but then every scenario that you expect to go one way goes in a completely opposite direction, and it's also genuinely funny as well, which I think a lot of animes try to be really funny, but usually if they're using humor, it's all like perverted humor or stuff like that. But this is like, it's actual like good humor, but not for the sake of like being like raunchy or adult or anything. It's like, this stuff's actually it's just good comedy. And like Ailey said, a lot of the side characters are really well developed, and they don't fit like the typical, I guess you would say, like the typical trope that some characters would like look at the side character of Kashima, who is the popular female, but not popular with the guys. She's popular with like all the ladies. So yeah, a lot of the side characters are just super well developed, and they all interact well with each other, even the main characters. And each of them kind of have like, instead of just being there for the sake of being there, or just like being there for the sake of like comedy or some random trope or whatever, they all have meaningful reasons to be, or like meaningful relationships with each of the main characters, and you understand like why they're friends and all this. So if I had to make a recommendation of one show, or at least like one or two shows to watch from summer season, this would be a definite bet of like, go watch the show, go enjoy it. You will laugh a lot, you will induce feelings, and you'll just have a great time with it. Up next, we're gonna go back to Chris and me, as we talk about Glass Slip, which was one of these shows that I was just really confused about through the entire run, even through the season finale. I'm just like, do I understand what happened? So we're going to talk about that, and we'll be back with more shows. Joining me once again is Chris, and we are going to now talk about Glass Slip, which was a 12-episode run this season. And for all 12 episodes of this show, for the most part, I was like, after each episode, I'd be like, what's going on with this show? I'm very confused.
Total confusion. But still sitting there hanging on and like, I guess I need to watch the next episode.
Yeah. So like the premise of the show was essentially, Toko is with her friends at like the summer festival. Essentially, she's watching fireworks, and then she sees these like fragments glimmering, or something like that, and she meets Kakiro, the new transfer student who comes in. He's like, yo, you see these fragments of the future too? I could tell you about them.
Yes.
And then as the show goes on, he's like, yeah, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what the hell with these any of this.
Right. That was I think that part confused me the most. Like,
Yeah, that's easily the most confusing part of the show.
like you start out thinking, oh, this guy has the answers. He's been searching for her, and like I don't know, he kind of turns into not a wimp, but just something different than what he originally was in the first episode, at least.
Yeah, you think of it like the first episode, it's gonna be like this huge supernatural-esque show where like they're gonna like be seeing like the future in every episode and like crazy stuff's gonna happen, but that like never happens.
Right. Yeah, it was confusing.
What you get out of this show is like a show about friends who at first don't want to end up in relationships with each other, who end up with relationships with each other, and just a really down to earth and kind of slice of life-ish show with romantic elements involved, and then that like random subplot just like lingering in the background.
Yeah, it's like that was another thing that they all like decided, and they even like called one another to let each other know, hey, that whole ban we had on dating each other, yeah, we lifted that. And then that was just kind of weird to me. And then that did add some drama into the group. I don't know. It was just, it's like, yeah, it really is like a slice of life. You're right. It's something to take a breather from a lot of the animes that I watch, at least, that have me just constantly like fucking upset or sad or, something epic. And this just kind of like mellows you out, and it's enjoyable. I love it.
Yeah. They kind of try to explain the whole like fragments of the future stuff in the penultimate episode when Toko like kind of goes off into her own world when she's listened to Kakiro's mom play the piano, and she imagines the same like world essentially, but she's the new kid in town essentially. Yeah. And like everyone else doesn't give her the time of day or anything, and she kind of understands the what did he call it, the unexpected loneliness that he feels at times. So I guess like even still I'm like really confused on like how to explain all of this. But I guess like that episode kind of made the whole show make a little bit more sense,
kind of.
And then like the final episode, they're like, the whole thing is like Akira was like, I don't know if I'm gonna move away or not with my mom and all this stuff. And then I really like that ending because when I write stuff, I usually do like really dumb cliffhangers like that to finish off stories just to people off.
Yeah.
And I know that the way that show ended really worked because I was off and I was like, why did they show if he was there or not?
Right? Those sons of bitch. Yep.
So yeah, it was a really weird show, but yet still, I would say really entertaining and interesting, even though you're going to go throughout the entire bit of it being like, what's going on? Help? So is someone going to explain anything that's going on in this show? But not really.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you have to be one of those people that can care about the characters to want to continue this show, because there's nothing, I don't know. I would rather use a different word than epic, because it's a good story, but there's nothing that's going to like hook you and keep you in. It's just like,
it's just a very character driven show instead of being like focused supremely on being like a fantasy or action driven story or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. I liked it a lot.
Yeah. I highly doubt there would be a season 2 of this just because, I don't know, it seemed very self-contained within the story, and it didn't seem like they were going like they were teasing towards continuing it or not, but
right.
It was fun for 12 episodes at least.
Definitely.
All right, so we're going to go back to me talking about other shows, and then you'll be back with your final segment in later half of the show. And welcome back. It's just me now. I know you're probably disappointed, but that's the way it is. So up next, we're going to talk about the first half of Sports Sunday. Haikyuu, aka the volleyball anime. I believe I said last time we did a seasonal anime checkup that I was really, I don't know, how would I describe this? Basically, I was not going to watch the show when it first came during the spring season. I was just gonna write it off. I didn't think it was gonna be any good. I don't know if that was just like me having weird prejudices, if I can say that word correctly, towards like volleyball. Maybe thinking like it's a male volleyball show. That just seems weird. Like maybe like assigning weird gender roles to sports, which is it's really stupid on my part, and I apologize for that. But eventually, I went on a whim. A whim. Yeah, I think that's how you say that. And I watched the first episode, and I was just like, this is really good. And the first half, basically through spring season, was really good. But the second half of this show, even better. All around, even better. That's all I can say. If you haven't watched Haikyuu, volleyball anime, very sports anime, and it's just really, really good. What all can I say about this show? You get really great drama from the matches. There's quite a few matches. I mean, you get tournament action at the last half of the show. You get to see the team come together around the first years who are like super good, and they bring this team that was basically on the brink of mediocrity and just like help rise them up to being like this team that has a genuine shot of going really far in the tournament. You also get to see them like find a coach, all sorts of stuff like wacky sports camp hijinks, fun relationships between like the different years of members and all that sort of stuff. Is one of the better sports animes I think I've seen, which I guess I haven't really seen many since getting back into anime like a couple years back, but if there's a formula to follow, I think this would be the formula to follow. It's just Haikyuu is a fantastic show, and really, really bummed me out at the very end when there wasn't like, hey, come join us next year for season 2. Especially with how open-ended they make that finale, because they're like basically with the way they leave it open-ended where the third years are coming back for the spring season. They're not gonna leave, and everyone's like super excited. They start training again, and then the show ends. Which just sucked essentially. Not to say like, oh man, the way the show ended, it sucked. It was just like, we're not getting a season 2 out of this. That just really sucks. So yeah. Definitely watch Haikyuu as well. Back to back, like, hey, you should watch this. You should watch this as well. I gotta flip pages now. Having a script is kind of weird, especially for a podcast like this. But up next, we're going to talk about Love Stage, which is a show I did not watch, and I basically have no idea what happens in the show at all, but Haley made some remarks about it, so we're going to go straight to her and her quote, which is like the last thing she talked about, so it's going to seem a little weird out of context and put in like randomly right here. But here's what she had to say. And that's like and with like 3 A's. I may or may not have accidentally stumbled upon half a season of Love Stage, and totally by mistake watched that half season, and whoops, it was kind of hilarious. I'm pretty ashamed, but I want to be totally honest, and I definitely watched it. So I think this was like one of the 2 boys love animes that was out in summer 2014. I say boys love because I don't know how to pronounce the other word for it, which is the easier word for it because it's like 4 letters. But yeah, that's all I know about it. I guess it was funny. Moving on. Let's talk about probably one of the heavy hitters for myself personally, and probably some of you as well. Let's talk about Persona 4 The Golden, the animation. The anime adaptation of the remake of Persona 4. That's not complicated or anything. So, got quite a few things to say about this show. Also, I have like on each show like characters just to remind myself like what like who's who in the show or what's their names and everything. On here, I just put characters, which yeah. I spent a lot of time with Persona 4 in general. Like, I played the remake Persona 4 Golden, played the fighting game. Watched the first anime run, playing the second fighting game now. I've actually had that for like a month before it came out here in the States, and then watched this show. So a lot of people really didn't understand how the show was going to be structured initially, because we knew it was going to be an anime adaptation of the remake of Persona 4 Golden, and going to add in Marie and all the sort of stuff that Golden adds in. So the first episode comes, and essentially it kind of runs the way the first anime runs, in that you see Persona 4 main character Yu Narukami come in, except this time it kind of runs with the way Persona 4 Golden starts, where he runs into Marie at first, and she's like, here, you drop this, and then they go on their way, and blah, blah, blah. So you still get the weird exposition of him coming to Yasogami High. Almost forgot the name of the school there. Introducing himself. They kind of they just skip over introducing the other characters, because they basically assume if you're watching this, you know basically everything. You know the entire story. So if you're going into this the first time and be like, I wonder what this Persona 4 stuff is about, you're not going to get any of that, because this is basically the hardcore version of the first anime, and just here's all this fan service we're going to give you if you understand it. But if you don't, well, tough shit. So he goes into TV, obviously. You meet the first batch of shadows where you get your persona and all that stuff. Except, unlike the first anime or even your first time playing through the game, you encounter 1,000 shadows, which definitely doesn't happen. And then Izanagi just wipes them clean in a matter of a couple of minutes, and then uses Myriad of Truths, which is obviously not a skill you have at the very beginning of the game. And it kind of sets the tone of being hey, this is basically New Game Plus, and we're going to just kind of treat it as that. So basically the whole story of the show was kind of split into two, where it was we're going to do the Marie social link first, and then we'll do the Adachi social link, and then essentially after that we'll do the January to May. I want to say that's when the game ends. Basically all that sort of stuff they added in after, or in the remake. So the first half it's the way they kind of structure the entire show, though, is it's disjointed, especially because you're doing a lot of time jumps. So you go from the first episode to the second episode when let's see. So basically the first episode is introducing, or basically the introduction to the anime and the game, basically. And then you go to the second episode, where is the up close and personal plan from Yosuke, where he's let's go get some scooters. Except that takes place in a couple months after the game starts. So it's a little weird. And then you see Kanji all of a sudden, he's hey, senpai! And they don't introduce him all. You're what? When did this guy come in? When did you get saved? Then the third episode is the beach episode, which that's during the summer. That's still a couple months after the scooter incident in Okina City. So a lot of time jumps. But basically they were just kind of we're going to do this section of Marie Social Link, this section of Marie Social Link, this section of Marie Social Link, all in order, and just get it out all the other way. So that leads to the second half of the show, where they do the Adachi storyline, which I think they did pretty well, except I didn't like how at the end of the show, basically, they kind of just skip over some of the stuff he kind of adds in, quote unquote, at the very, very end of the game. Basically when you're wrapping up all your social links and that sort of stuff. But I thought the way they handled that story, or that social link especially, because it's a crazy social link in the game, and they handled it very well, I think, in the show. And then basically after that you get the ski trip, the Valentine's Day sort of stuff, and then Marie's dungeon when you're on the ski trip, which seemed very weird, the way they handled some of those last few episodes, especially because in the game around January, especially right after New Year's, Margaret calls you on your cell phone and is hey, Marie went missing. I'm trying to find her. I'll keep you updated on this. Don't really worry about it right now, but if I find something, I'll let you know. In the show, they kind of rectified or retcon that, and then try to use it as a way that Marie just randomly disappears from everyone's memories. She disappears from pictures they took over the years, and I was that just seems kind of hokey. I like the way they did in the game a lot better. And especially it was you still have Margaret coming through the TV in the cabin during the ski trip when you get stranded, and pulling you through the TV. But she only meets you. You don't bring the entire investigation team with you to meet her. And then they do kind of go ballsy with making a game over scenario in the penultimate episode, I want to say. Maybe not. Basically, the episode before the penultimate episode, I want to say, they do the game over section, and the penultimate episode they kind of he reloaded and he beats the boss. Way to go. Also, you do get to see everyone get their super duper upgraded personas. Not the ones once you max out a social link, they get their upgraded ones, but the ones if you played if you played Golden, you get to upgrade someone's persona again. Basically, if you've maxed out their social link, you could like talk to them during January, and they'll upgrade their persona again. So you got to see all those. You got to see Izanagi go to Izanagi no Okami, which seemed weird that he would upgrade right before the Izanami fight, but what do you do? I mean, and technically in the game you can kind of do that before that fight anyways, so it was just like, I really like that. That was a neat touch. And then you had a redux of the Izanami fight, which I didn't really like, basically because they made the focal point more on the Marie social link than any of the other social links. So it was basically just her bringing you out of the I guess the fog and making you see the truth and all that. Unlike the actual game where it's like you get to see all of your social links and they help you, give you the strength to use Myriad of Truths. And then they basically kept the full epilogue from Persona 4 Golden in there at the very end, which is a good touch. I was kind of hoping that you'd get like some more stuff out of that, but what can you do? So it's really hard to recommend this show, I would say. Basically, I would say if you've watched the first anime, you know what Persona 4 is about, just watch it. It's really just a big, huge thing of fan service for like 12 episodes. If you don't know what Persona 4 is about, you should probably either go play the game, which is amazing, probably one of the best games I've ever played, go watch the first anime, or just like read up about it, and then you could go and watch this, but that last option is probably not the best option for this. So coming from that, we next have _Hamatora, which I think I explained last time that I watched Hamatora and kind of like basically marathon the last half of that anime, or the last half of it that I didn't watch from winter, I want to say. Yeah, that was a winter 2013/2014 show. And the way that show went, I thought it was really fun. Basically, I think how I compared it to is like it's a crime drama, if I can use words correctly. And if you mixed it with like having powers like from Darker Than Black. This is the sequel to that anime, basically a continuation of the first season, where the first season ends on a cliffhanger where Art kills Nice, and then in the first episode they're like, he's fine, whatever. They spend like 20 minutes using that as like a big like memorial thing and all this sort of stuff, and then he just comes in and he's like, I'm fine, whatever. And then that should have really been a sign of, like, to set the stage for that entire season, because man, it was just a really disappointing season, just from the get-go. Just the way they did story beats, I just didn't like a lot of it. The way it was like Art's like, I'm just bad now, I'm going to kill everybody, what's up? I'm gonna steal your minimums and then use them for myself because I don't have one, and then I'm gonna lead this band of rogue minimum holders and then shockingly turn on them at the very last minute and then tell you all that I'm doing this because I thought my brother wanted me to kill everyone. I don't know. It seemed they kind of rushed everything at the very end too. It was like, oh, we kind of have to make this exposition really quick, and oh shit, we got to do it really quick. Wrap it up, and yeah, just didn't really like it. And especially the fact that like Art's minimum ended up being like, oh, he can't die. Basically, no one can die. We're too cowardly to take chances and kill off our characters. Basically what it seemed like. So that was a bummer. Was really looking forward to seeing like the second season of that and hoping it was just going to continue off the first season, just be a raucous show and take crazy dares, like just killing off the main character like I thought they were going to do in the first season. Then nope, we're not going to do that. So I have Sailor Moon Crystal on here, which it's kind of weird to talk about because it's going to be an ongoing show. It goes like every 2 weeks. So there's only like 6 episodes in. So basically, it's redone Sailor Moon more towards the manga than the original anime. So there's less filler. Basically, they're just like, if you've seen Sailor Moon, you probably have seen like all the episodes so far. You know basically what's going on. I watched like 4 of them, but then I kind of fell off a little bit. So I'm like 2 episodes behind or something like that. Some weird stuff in this show though. Like I really like the ideas that Sailor Moon gives out towards women in general, like making it very female empowered and all that sorts of stuff. But then having Tuxedo Mask like kiss an unconscious Sailor Moon is totally f***ed up and not okay. Like, and it happens twice in this f***ing show. Like, why would you do that? Especially in a show that's like, it's a very it's a very, like, it's basically a feminist show, and you're going to have random scenes like that in it. It seems totally counterproductive and contradictory towards the message you're trying to show. And I don't know, I felt really disgusted by that, and I was like, do I really want to keep watching this after that? Maybe that's why I kind of stopped. So yeah, not really much you could say about that for now. It's only 6 episodes in. It's going to be ongoing basically throughout fall, and maybe throughout the entire next year, because it goes every 2 weeks, and I think it's a 25 episode run, so that could be going up through the start of summer next year. So up next, we're going to go back to Chris for our final segment with him, in which we're going to talk about the very controversial Sword Art Online 2. Save your hate mail for after the segment, please. And we're back with Chris for his final segment of the show, in which we are going to talk about one of the most controversial shows you could probably talk about in recent anime, Sword Art Online, and the basically the new show Sword Art Online 2.
Yes. First off, let me start by saying you reminded me that you do bleep out curse words, so your mother farts, turds, bleep. Don't bleep this part out because I'm not cussing. You can't bleep me out right here. Okay.
I mean, I can just cut all that out, so.
Oh, you son of a. Okay. I mean, I didn't mean to cuss there. Okay, hold on. Okay, I'm ready.
All right, well, tell me about Sword Art Online and your adventures with it, because you recently got, super enamored with this show.
Yeah, so I don't even know what had me stumble upon this. I think it was the fact that I was searching for a new anime on Hulu, and when I was reading the description of this, it mentioned something about virtual reality, and I was like, ooh, it, I might as well, because I'm starting to really dig the idea of virtual reality.
Yeah, if you've listened to any of our Mark Out When It's Dark Out podcast, you will hear Chris Frost crone on and on about the wonders of virtual reality.
Yes.
Cheap plug.
Yes. Cheap plug. Yeah, so I tried it out, and that first episode just sucks you right in. And I understand a lot of people hate Sword Art Online. I mean, God, you go anywhere on the internet about Sword Art Online, and it's hate. But I got lost in that world. I love it.
I'm not 100% sure on all the hate about it, just because I haven't really paid much attention to it.
Right.
But it seems a good amount of it is basically from people who like to declare that this is the best anime of all time, when clearly it probably isn't, and that's just a bunch of hyperbole and conjecture. But
yeah, a lot of people are just saying this is the greatest thing ever created. I'm obsessed with it, and I hope it never stops. I just love this world that they created here, but I don't think you could put it as the greatest anime. That you can't put hardly anything that comes out these days as the greatest. But it is great. And I know a lot of other people, when they're bashing on it, they think it's just well, they're just trying to be like Dot Hack or something like that, and basically saying that they copied them.
Which granted, Dot Hack came out in 2002.
Right.
When this came out in probably 2010 originally.
Yeah, I think 2010, 29. Yeah, 09.
29.
09.
So I mean, even with that though, the idea of going into a virtual game world and all that stuff, it's not a very original idea to begin with.
Right. And so I can understand if people were big Dot Hack fans, I mean, there's a lot of people that side with one thing, Coke, Pepsi, you know what I mean? So I understand that, whatever.
And this is kind of the same argument that people had, I guess, last year when Attack on Titan got really huge and people were like, this is the greatest anime ever. And it's you look at that season, that's definitely not the greatest anime ever, because that anime has a lot of pacing issues and stuff, and don't even get me started on the manga right now, but yeah.
Right, yeah, and that's a perfect example. Attack on Titan was freaking awesome, but you can't call it the best.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't put Sword Art Online up with even old Dragon Ball Z. Way better than Sword Art Online. Way better.
And that show has a ton of filler in it.
Right. Way better. So, I don't know. But, I mean, what all do you want me to talk about here with it? I mean, it's great. You go into a virtual world, and basically when it starts out, you have the main character, virtual world. He's a bad bad player in it. He actually got to do the beta testing for it, and then once it's released to the public, like I think it was like 10,000 people get stuck in it. There's no log offs, like you can't log out of it, and if you do try to get out of it, you're gonna die unless you beat the game. That's essentially like wrap it all up.
That actually kind of does feel like one of the plot points of one of the dot hack games. Not
Really?
gonna lie.
Oh, okay, yeah. So
Which I think like the first game is like there's someone going around like in the game itself like killing people off.
okay, that's okay because that's in Sword Art Online 2 going on right now, actually.
Welp.
But here's the thing. Well, hold on. Okay, so Sword Art Online 1. So basically, he's in there. You have to go up to like a level 100, like floor 100, and once you beat it, then you'll be able to log out. The creator of the game ends up like being in the game too, and you don't think it's him or whatever. Maybe you do, whatever. But the main character eventually beats him. Kind of. He like dies too, almost. I don't know. It's really weird. That part confused me. They get out of the game. And that leads into, oh god, what's it called? They're all fairies in this next one. I can't think of what the story arc is for the next one, for the second half of the season. But they have wings, so that's cool. They're like fairies. It's like all these different fairy races, and their goals to like get to the top of a tree. But the creator of that game won't allow that to happen, and the main character's main squeeze is locked in that tree, so he has to go get her. I don't know, that's basically a summary of that, summary of that.
So is it like a different game from the first one you were describing?
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
So the guy, how do I put this? Yes, okay. So the guy that created the first game put himself into that game, died, and gave the main character like this little seed, right? This little thing. And what it eventually became was like an ability to create all of these universes and all these worlds, right? So this next one is just a different world. And a guy from Sword Art Online created this world and is trying to take the main character's girlfriend, essentially.
How dare he?
Yeah. So, of course, hero wins and prevails, and this is the first time we see the main character kill somebody or almost kill somebody outside of the virtual world. And then that goes into season 2.
So tell me about season 2, because this is a show about current anime. I mean,
Yeah, Gun Gale Online.
now this is not like it didn't wrap up with like the 12th or 13th episode. Excuse me. It's gonna go on to like fall season, right?
Correct. At least I
Okay.
believe that's what's going on, because they have. I mean, if you go by the novels, they have. I don't know, like quite a few more to go, I believe.
Well, I mean, they're all gonna get converted though, so.
Yes, they are. And so, Gun Gale Online, it's the third story arc, and it's a virtual game with its main focus on, like, not, I thought it was going to be like Call of Duty style, but thank God it's not. It's just this, like, apocalyptic looking world, and you can use guns and melee weapons. Go figure, because there's a lightsaber looking thing called a photon sword.
So you thought originally it was just going to be a first-person shooter filled with misogynistic, sexist douchebags?
Yes.
Okay.
But it wasn't. Praise the Lord. It's actually really cool. This is probably... I really enjoyed Sword Art Online because that's the kind of game I'd want to play, in like a virtual world. But the Gun Gale Online story has been awesome. There was a lot of fan service, which I don't care for.
Shocking.
Right. But
fan service in my Japanese anime? Who'd have thunk it?
Right. But I'm one of those people, I can just look past it. I don't care. I mean, it's going to be there. I know it's going to be there. Whatever. As long as it's still a good story to me, I'm fine. I can look past it. I have to check my Twitter every now and then anyways. So basically what's going on in this world is there's this... what's his name? Oh my god, I can't remember his name right now. Well, anyways, this one guy has a phantom, like, it has like a death bullet thing that can like kill people in the game, right? So they have to try to solve this mystery, and Kirito goes into this game to figure out who it is, because you can't have people killing people in virtual reality games anymore, we thought. Dun 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 dun, you know what I mean? So yeah, do you want me to spoil that?
I mean, you can spoil anything that's been shown, like in the show so far.
Oh, okay, cool. So it ends up this death guy with his death gun actually isn't killing people in the game. What's happening is he and his accomplice are from Sword Art Online, and they were in the Laughing Coffin group, which are red players, and red players are the ones that actually kill people. So while he's in the game on Gun Go Online shooting people, it's like he has it to where he knows who he's going to go shoot. That way his guy outside of the virtual world will go to that person's house while they're hooked up to the machine and inject them with something to kill them.
Could you say they get injected with a lethal dose of poison?
Yeah, with a lethal dose of poison.
There's a reference like no one else is gonna get.
Probably not, but NWO for life. So where we're left off last episode was they leave the virtual world, and the new main character she gets attacked by somebody we thought was her friend, but I knew it from the opening credit scene, the little video they always have at the beginning, the opening sequence. It was very obvious that he was the bad guy. Anyways, he's the bad guy. He's trying to kill her, and then the hero comes to save the day.
Openings end up spoiling things a lot more than they should.
Yeah. No, it's very true. It's like, I'm trying to think how the sequence goes. So basically it shows that character as a normal guy, and then like flames shoot up, and then it shows the main bad guy of this series. So you're like,
not obvious at all or anything.
Yeah, it shows his virtual character. It's like, oh, didn't see that coming. Really cool though. Really good show. Wish people wouldn't bash it so much, but
what can you do?
Yeah, but I'm glad people did, because now once this show's over and you have to wait a while for the next season, I'm gonna check out the dot hack stuff and see how great that is.
I mean, there's like 6 or 7 PS2 games you can look at.
There we go.
All right, so I guess you'll just have to join us for the next Seasonal Anime Checkup when you describe the second half of Sword Art Online 2.
Yeah, definitely. And the next time I do come back on, I'll actually have I'll have notes and stuff, because I know I probably said a lot of and I did not describe the way I should and the way I'd like to. This was all just it, so I'm sorry for that.
I actually had a script for this.
Oh, you did?
I was very professional. This is the only time I've ever been this professional on a podcast.
Hey, it's okay. I used to do that with our other show, but I really wanted to with this. I completely spaced it, and then at work today I had no time to get on the internet.
That's fine. You did a good job. So.
Oh, don't. No, I didn't. Hey. Sorry.
That's very rude. Well, thank you for joining us here for a couple segments on the Seasonal Anime Checkup, and then
anytime, man.
We will go back to the rest of the podcast, where I think I'm going to talk about a couple more shows, and then we will preview the fall 2014 anime season. And we're back, so if you want to send hate mail, you can do it now. As someone who still has not watched Sword Art Online, I can not really say for certain one way or another if people really, or why people really hate that show or not, but people have mixed opinions about that show, especially. But I think it's more from what I've seen, like people being like, just thinking like that's the best show they've ever seen and blah blah blah, but who knows. Up next, we're going to go to Haley and her final segment of the day, where we're going to talk about Tokyo Ghoul, which I was saying Tokyo Ghoul like for twice there, so you missed out on all that stuff. So here's what she had to say about that on a show that I did not watch, but kind of wished I did at times, but I just never really got around to it, and marathoning 12 episodes is not an easy thing when you're in school, so let's hear what she had to say. Tokyo Ghoul was another one that I dropped after those ridiculous episodes with the effeminate purple-haired bro who wanted to snack on Kanaki's face. After hearing about the manga's ending, I don't think I'll ever pick it back up. So not really a lot to say about that, I guess. Some weird choices in that show, maybe not going with the way the manga ended, or maybe it does or something, I don't know. It seemed like an interesting premise, at least from what I've seen on Tumblr, but I don't know. Probably one of the shows I'll have to like at least look at and be like, and watch it to see why especially she says that, or why it seems like an interesting premise in general. So maybe I'll put that on the backlog for, sometime in the near future, but for now it's just going to be, I've got no opinion on it because I didn't see it. And finally, the last show we're going to talk about from Summer Anime 2014. Probably one of the big hitters from this last season. Zankyo no Terror, aka Terror in Resonance. Holy shit. This was a fantastic show. Combining, is basically a modern version of a crime drama in an anime form, where you have these two terrorists who are part of this group, Sphinx, and they're basically bombing Tokyo. And you basically, throughout the entire show, you learn why they're doing it, like who these guys are, and yeah, like why they're doing what they're doing. It's like what I said the first time. And along the way, you meet other characters like Lisa, who's like a runaway from home. She meets up with these guys like at the very beginning and inadvertently becomes an accomplice with them. And then she kind of just goes off and joins them. You meet the antagonist, who turns out to be not the terrorists, who are 9 and 12, by the way. You meet 5, who is a part of this weird group of orphans that the government or something kind of like just took up and did weird stuff with them. She's called 5, and she's like with the American government in a sense. So in a show about terrorists, the American government becomes the antagonist in this show, which it seems really ridiculous, but almost in a way it's like, yeah, I can totally see that. Kind of makes sense. And then of course you have basically the main protagonist, which in a sense is almost 9 and 12. Which you really wouldn't think, like, these guys are the terrorists. How could they be the protagonist? But Detective Shiabazuki. I horribly butchered that pronunciation, by the way, probably. But he basically is the one who kind of figures out what Sphinx is doing, for the most part, in the first couple of bombings. And then basically works his way out of the archives, essentially, where he got demoted for stuff that happened in his past, to basically becoming back to a detective and inadvertently figuring out who these guys are, what their motivations are, and tries to save them at the end. But the way the show was basically going to go, you had to know not everyone was going to survive, and that is totally the case at the ending of the show. Not everyone survives, but it's still a fantastic show. You should definitely check it out. Basically, top 3 of shows you should watch this season. Probably is. I'm gonna go back through here. Yeah, I would totally. If you're gonna watch 3 shows from Summer Anime 2014, Kekkon Shoujo no Zuki-kun, Haikyuu, Zankyo no Terror. Throw in the script. We're done with it. So that's it for Summer Anime 2014. And now let's take a look ahead towards Fall 2014, which I believe is kind of already started, as there's some shows that have already gone live. At least one of them has. So. We're going to take a live look at this. This is basically the first time I've even taken a look at any of this, because I've kind of just been holding off until we do this podcast. But let's talk about what's happening in fall 2014. I'm going to give you the name, genre, production company, a synopsis, and yeah, basically when it starts as well. So some of these are kind of like weird offshoots that I don't know if they could count, because like it's a 26 episode order, but it's like 5 minute episode, so probably skip those, especially since I guess some of these look like kids shows too. So starting off here, this started airing Saturday, September 27th. That's not, if I say Saturday, that's not going to mean jack shit if you're watching this, like, or not watching this, but listening to this 3 months from now. But Terraformers, it is a action horror sci-fi, whatever that word is, from Leiden Films. Here is the synopsis. With the space program attempting to travel to Mars, 21st century scientists were tasked with warming up to the planet so that humans could survive on the surface. They came up with an efficient, cost-effective plan of sending cockroaches in mold to the surface so that the mold would absorb the sunlight, and the insect corpses would serve as a food source for the mold. This sounds fucking gross already. It is now the year 2577, and the first manned ship to Mars has landed on the planet, and the 6 crew members are ready for their mission. But what they find are giant mutated humanoid cockroaches with incredible physical strength. The crew members are easily wiped out, but not before sending a transmission back to Earth. Now, humanity will send elite warriors to exterminate the mutated bugs and claim back Mars. You know, before I read this, I thought, hey, maybe this is going to be a fun show. Now it's got giant bugs, and I'm like, nope! Oh, man. I'm telling you, giant bugs, and it's like, I'm done, I'm out. So, let's see, what's up next? Denkai Gai no Hanya-san. This is a comedy from Shinai Animation. This starts October 2nd. It is based off a manga, by the way. Should note that. What some of the stuff's going to be. Basically, what some of the stuff's going to be based off of. The youthful bookstore comedy. Should it be this? Or I don't know. The youthful bookstore comedy revolves around the folks who work in a manga shop deep in a certain Electric Town neighborhood. Denkai Gai, or Electric Town, is a popular name for shopping areas that specialize or used to specialize in electric and electronic items like Tokyo's Akihabara. The protagonist, Umio, works part-time at Books Umanohone, along with his senior at work, but not in age, Hyotan. Had to take a second there and just look at my screen, make sure that was right. As many dedicated manga fans visit the store, there's always something going on. That actually seems kind of interesting. I might check that out. Next up, we have Gundam G no Reconquista. This is obviously, it's a Gundam show. You should know what a Gundam show is. From Sunrise, it's an original show. Some time has passed since the end of the Universal Century, a history marked by space colonization and space warfare. Humanity's prosperity, which ushered in a new era known as Reguild Century, was believed to endure alongside the global peace. It is the year RC 1014. The Capitol Tower is an orbital elevator that rose above the Earth's surface and linked Earth and space. As the conduit of the photon battery energy source to the surface, it is regarded as sacred. Oh man, this is a weird... I gotta zoom in on these since I can barely read. Alright. There we go. Buri Zenamu is in the middle of training for the Capitol Guard, established to protect the Capitol Tower, while the tower is attacked by G Surufu, a highly maneuverable mobile suit with technology that is not from any known country. Buri, that's a weird name, who joins the battle in the maintenance mobile suit Rikuten, successfully captures the G Surufu. However, Buri feels something for the space pirate girl named Aida. Aida Rayhanton, who piloted the G Surufu. It is the same feeling he has for G Surufu, even though he's supposedly never seen it before. The G Surufu, which should be only operable under specific conditions, is somehow started up by Buri. The objective of Aida and the space pirates who attacked the Capitol Tower, and the fate followed by Buri, who was chosen by G Surufu, will lead to a truce that will shake the entire Reguild Century era. Definitely a Gundam show. I might check that out because I've been missing seeing some Gundam. So there's another show in here that's 5 minutes, but we'll kind of skip over that. Up next, we have Amagi Brilliant Park, which is a comedy drama, harem, romance school from the fine folks at Kyoto Animation, based off of a light novel. The slapstick drama begins with Seiya Kane, a high school boy who is invited on a date in an amusement park by a mysterious, beautiful transfer student named Isuzu Sento. He is introduced to Ratifa, a real princess, and the park's manager, and is asked to be the acting manager of this disappointing amusement park in the Tokyo suburbs. I'll probably watch that because it's Kyoto Animation, and they make fine stuff. Let's see. Next, Garu, Hanno no Kokin. Action, demons, supernatural. From Mappa. It is an original. The story of the anime begins with when the King's Advisor launches a witch hunt, which endangers the Makai Knights and Makai priests, who are supposed to protect people. A Makai priest who has been condemned to die at the stake who gives birth to a child, Leon Lewis. That's alright, that's a very easy name to pronounce. The child is rescued by his father, a Makai Knight, but never meets his mother. When he grows up, he inherits the gold armor as a descendant of the Gold Knights. Meanwhile, the King's Advisor has taken over the country as the king has become ill, and Prince Alfonso has been driven out with his mother. He comes seeking out the legendary Gold Knight in hopes of retaking his kingdom. Probably not going to watch that. Danton ni Waru. Oh man, I horribly probably butchered that. This is action historical shoujo from Dogakobo, based off a manga. In the 11th year of the Meiji era, carrying swords was forbidden by the government, and those known as samurai were slowly fading away. However, there were plenty who didn't like those changes taking place in Japan, and inevitably the crime rates increased. The country's only solution was an escapable lake prison. Since the prison had no other way to access it except by water, the 3 boys of the Kumo family were assigned to transport the criminals to their new home. Although, is that the only thing they were doing? That sounds kind of interesting. Log Horizon, second season. Action, fantasy, game, magic, romance, shonen. From Studio Dean. Based off a light novel. And the second season of Log Horizon. If you couldn't have figured that one out already. Veteran gamer Shiro and other players have been trapped in the world of the online game Elder Tales for 6 months. The once chaotic city of Akiba has regained its everyday hustle and bustle following the formation of the self-governing organization Round Table Meeting. The Earthlings, who were originally from the game world, have gained the trust of Shiro by waging a defensive war against the goblins in Zantilif region. This has led Princess Rainicia of the Cohen family, the highest-ranking Earthling aristocrats, to live in Akiba. It's almost winter, and the adventurers are thinking about what they're going to do and what their goals are in this world, or in this other world. Will they remain in Akiba or go to the city of the west? Or will they travel to the land of the north, or another faraway country? The opinions of the adventurers begin to diverge. What adventures await the members of the Shiro team in the second series of Log Horizon? That was a mouthful. Magic Kaito 1412, adventure comedy romance shonen from A1 Pictures, based off of manga. Kaito Kirobo, a normal teenage student whose father is often absent. When his father dies under mysterious circumstances, he is made aware of his father's secret identity. A famous international criminal known as International Criminal 1412, the Phantom Thief. Not Phantom Thief. And that he was murdered by a mysterious organization for refusing to aid them in retrieving the Pandora Gem, a mystical stone that's said to shed a tear during the passing of a particular comet, often called the Valley Comet, the consumption of which bestows immortality. He vows to prevent the organization from gaining immortality and assumes his father's identity as he begins his quest for the gem. His only clues as to the gem's location are that it glows red under the full moon, and that it is a doublet, a gem hidden within a larger gem. Thus, it would have to be a relatively large one with a bizarre history and always stored in a place that never receives moonlight. He thus researches and steals famous priceless gems with odd histories from incredibly well-defended areas, and always returns them after the very next full moon. Very, very tech-savvy synopsis there. I don't know, I'm gonna butcher this first word here. Let's go with Modern. Modern no Utu Vanadis from Satelight, based off a light novel, is adventure, ecchi, fantasy, harem, romance, seinen, I don't know. In times of war set in Western Europe, Eleonora Vildsaria, one of the 7 Vanadis of Jexted, leads the war into Brune. There are actually 7 Vanadis named like this because they each received a powerful weapon from the dragon to reign over 7 territories, each possessing their own. The power of the Vanadis causes dread and fear toward the enemy. An earl in the service of the country of Brune, a young archer called Tigre, got a taste of it after he was defeated on the battlefield by Eleonora. However, Ellen decided to spare his life after seeing his skills. In exchange, he's asked to serve Ellen. Well, all right. Oh boy, this is gonna be Ushinawa Warata Mire wo Modamete from Feel. This is Romance School Supernatural, based off a visual novel. Uchihama Gakuen has seen an increase in enrollment in recent years, and as a result, a new school building will be constructed. The story takes place during the final school festival in the old school. All the club leaders decide to give it their all to make this the best school festival. So is a member of the notorious astronomy club, which basically solves the various issues in the student council's place. On one day, he stays in the school late at evening because he got slightly injured by the judo club and is healing his wounds in the infirmary. Suddenly, the building shakes. Shocked, he runs up the stairs to where the shaking seems to have centered, and there he encounters a mysterious naked girl, whom at first appears to know him. On the next day, this girl, Yui, seeks out the astronomy club, expressing her desire to join. That seems like something. Cross Onge Tenshi to Ryu no Rondo from Sunrise is action mecha sci-fi. It is an original. Let me retry that. Due to humanity observing the data technology that has evolved to a great amount called mana, the human race is able to subjugate all wars, starvation, pollution, and other problems on Earth by using its power, which is similar to magic. Earth has attained the utopia of complete peace and no wants. First princess of the Mitsurugi Empire, Angeles, as with everyone else, she also had no wants or worries. She was celebrated by the people of the Empire and was supposed to wear the crown. However, she realizes the shocking truth that she is Norma, an irregular existence that cannot use mana, and are treated as heretics and as things rather than people. Having everything stolen from her, she isolates herself on a remote island. What was waiting for her there was a fateful meeting with a group of Norma girls who knew nothing but battle. The girls spend their days riding humanoid robot weapons called Barameru, hunting giant dragons that have come from another dimension to invade. Having her name taken from her, what will Soldier Angi see at the end of the fight? What can she believe in? What will she obtain? The story of a single girl's fortitude starts now. World Trigger is an action school sci-fi shonen space supernatural from Toei Animation based off a manga. A gate to another dimension has burst open, and from it emerge gigantic invincible creatures that threaten all of humanity. Earth's only defense is a mysterious group of warriors who have co-opted the alien technology in order to fight back. That might be interesting. Who knows? Whew. A lot of reading. Nanatsu no Taizai is an action-adventure fantasy shonen supernatural from A1 Pictures, also based off a manga. When they were accused of trying to overthrow the monarchy, the feared warriors, the Seven Deadly Sins, were sent into exile. Princess Elizabeth discovers the truth. The Sins were framed by the King's Guard, the Holy Knights, too late to prevent them from assassinating her father and seizing the throne. Now the princess is on the run, seeking the Sins to help her reclaim the kingdom. But the first Sin she meets, Meliadas, is a little innkeeper with a talking pig. He doesn't even have a real sword. Have the legends of the Sin's strength been exaggerated? Next up, we have Grisaya no Kaijitsu. From 8-Bit, it is a visual novel and is a drama psychological romance school. That would be a really weird description for a school. The story is set in an academy that is a cloistered orchid for girls to be educated and cultivated away from external influences. 5 girls spend their lives within these walls in repentance and atonement. Yuji Kazame has just enrolled as a sole male student there. Okamai Shoujo to Kuro Oji, comedy school shoujo from TYO Animations based off a manga. I haven't been saying like when these debut, by the way, but you should just figure out they're going in order. Like this is for October 5th, so it's not like this has jumped super far. The story centers around Erika Shinohara, a vain 16-year-old girl who tells her friends about her romantic exploits, but she actually has no boyfriend. She claims that a handsome boy in a candid photo is her boyfriend, but it turns out that boy is a schoolmate named Kyoa Sata. She has no choice but to make him her fake boyfriend. Unfortunately, Sada may look like a sweet person, but he is actually an ultra black-hearted sadist. Sada takes advantage of Erika's weakness and treats her like his dog. Well, thought that was going to be an interesting show, but then it turned kind of shitty. Sora no Method is a fantasy show from 3HZ. It is an original series. The story begins one winter day when the wish of a few girls was realized with a miracle changing the landscape of a town. In the skies above this town, a disc is always there. That's it. Guguri, no, I don't know how to say that. Kokore-san, comedy, romance, shonen, supernatural from TMS Entertainment, based off a 4-koma manga. The story revolves around a little girl named Kohina. Kohina ends up summoning a Kokore-san, a low-ranking ghost in Japanese folklore. The Kokore-san she calls turns out to be a white-haired, handsome young man. At first, he had intended to merely haunt her, but soon he becomes worried about her terrible eating habit of cup ramen for every meal. He later decides to haunt her in order to protect her. She just sounds like a college kid. All these are like 5-second animes, 5-minute animes. There's a second season of Yowamushi Pedal. This is the bicycling anime. That's all I know before. Ino Battle wa Nichijo Kei no Nakade. Comedy, fantasy, romance, shonen, supernatural from Trigger starting October 7th, based off a light novel. In the original novel series' story, the 5 members of the Literature Club awakened with extraordinary powers half a year ago. Although the members expected to be thrown into a world of superpowered battles, at their school, their normal daily routines continued. No secret organizations bent on world destruction, no superpowered wars, no braves or demon kings. However, the members still look forward to the possibilities of adventure and continue to believe that with every day, they were getting even closer to those days of fantasy. Their days of romantic comedy and battles with extraordinary powers begin. Actually sounds kind of interesting. Akatsuki no Yona, action comedy fantasy romance shoujo from Studio Pero. Sure, we'll go with that. Starting October 7th. It's a manga. Yona is the sole princess of the kingdom, living in the luxurious and carefree life as a princess should. She has it all: the finest clothes and cosmetics, the most divine sweets, a loving emperor as a father, and the hottest cousin crush, Suwon, anyone could ever hope to have. Now, if only her bodyguard, Sunhack? Sure, we'll go with that. Wasn't so annoying to her and her hair wasn't so red. But her nearly perfect world quickly Let's try it again. But her nearly perfect world quickly shatters as the man she loves, Suwon, murders her father, and the path to his ascension to the throne is assured. Sunak escapes with Yona, and they lead a life on the run from that point on. I feel like that's been the plot of like 3 other animes we've talked about. Trinity 7, Nin, No, Masho, Sukai, Fantasy, Harem, Magic, Romance, School, Shonen, Supernatural. That's a lot of descriptors. From 7 arcs, starting October 8th, based off a manga. In this romantic comedy but sometimes serious magical school story, life as Arata Kasuga knows it is wiped out by a bizarre incident known as collapse phenomenon, which causes worldwide destruction and takes his cousin Hijiri Kasuga to the next world. To resolve the collapse phenomenon and bring back Hijiri, Arata enrolls in the Royal Biblia Academy. Wow. Waiting in the school are 7 beautiful female magic users, the Trinity 7. All right. Gundam Build Fighters Tribe. I believe this is the 2nd season of Gundam Build Fighters. From Sunrise on October 8th, and it's an original series. The story takes place 7 years after Sei Iori and Reiji won the 7th Gunplay Battle World Tournament. Since then, the rules of gunplay have been renewed, and the popularity of the sport becomes even more popular. However, one academy is left behind in this change, and that was Seiho Academy, which Sei Iori once attended. Losing my words. The only member of the Gunplay Battle Club remaining is Fumina Hoshino, and her alone. In the state the club is in, she is not even able to participate in the preliminaries for Japan's National Gunplay Tournament. In front of her, a single transfer student named Seikai Kamiki appears, a boy who has been training with his master in martial arts. Along with him and the young gunplay builder Yuma Yusaka, Fumina forms a new team. All right. Trying to see how many more we have left, and still quite a bit. Daito Shoken no Hitsujikai from Hoods Entertainment is a romance school show starting October 9th from a visual novel. The story is set in Shiomi Academy, a vast prestigious academy with a Daito Shoken, literally great library, that rivals Japan's National Library. As a member of the library club, Kiyotaro Kakae goes to Daito Shoken to enjoy reading by himself. He then meets a second-year girl named Sugumi Shirasaki through the efforts of a so-called shepherd who fulfills people's wishes. Eventually, more girls join the club thanks to the shepherd. Kiseiju Sei no Kakaritsu. Did I already read this? No. Okay. Action, drama, horror, psychological, sci-fi from Madhouse on October 9th, based off of manga. The story is set in a world where alien beings called parasites come to Earth. They start taking over humans by entering in through their noses and ears and attaching themselves to their brains. One alien called Migi is only able to take over a high school student Shinchi Izumi's right arm and is unable to control Shinchi completely. Migi and Shinchi learn to coexist, and the two battle over the parasites who see humans only as food. Alright. Shirobako. That's an easy name. It's a comedy from PA Works starting October 9th and is original. 5 girls chase their dreams. The story revolves around the everyday troubles and hardships that occur when working in the anime industry and the results and conflicts that happen day to day among the group of girls. Here is probably the big hitter for me this fall season, Psycho Pass Season 2, which is an action police sci-fi thriller from Tatsunoko starting October 10th and is an original. The series takes place in the near future when it is possible to instantaneously measure and quantify a person's state of mind and personality. This information is recorded and processed, and the term psychopath refers to a standard used to measure an individual's being. The story centers around the enforcement officer Shinya Kogami, who is... I think that's just... that's just like a synopsis of the first season, so we can't really use that. Either way, very hyped for that. Shikatsu wa Kimi no Uso, drama, music, romance, school, shonen, from A1 Pictures, based off of manga. Piano prodigy Arima Kosei dominated the competition, and all child musicians know his name. But after his mother, who is also his instructor, passed away, he had a mental breakdown while performing at a recital that resulted in him no longer being able to hear the sound of his piano, even though his hearing was perfectly fine. Even 2 years later, Kosei hasn't touched the piano and views the world in monotone, and without any flair or color. He was content at living out his life with his good friends Tsubaki and Watari, until one day a girl changed everything. Miyazono Kaori is a pretty free-spirited violinist whose playing style reflects her personality. Kaori helps Kosei return to the music world and show that it should be free and mold breaking, unlike the structured and rigid style Kosei was used to. Alright, we're getting very close to the end here, so about to wrap up. Ore Twin Tails ni Naremasu, action comedy fantasy mecha, romance, school, slice of life from production IMS, starting October 10th, based off a light novel. Mitsuki Shoji is a first-year high school student who greatly loves the Twin Tails hairstyle. One day, a beautiful girl, Theory, that's okay, sure, who comes from another world, suddenly appeared in front of him and gave him the power to transform into the Twin Tails warrior Tail Red. Now Shoji, with the help of his childhood friend Subi Ike, whatever, who can become the Twin Tails warrior Tail Blue, must fight in order to protect the peace on Earth. Sanzako no Musume Ranja, adventure fantasy from Polygon Pictures and Studio Ghibli. Huh, okay, sure. Starts October 11th and is based on a children's book. The story revolves around Ronia, the other daughter of Mattis, the chief of a tribe of bandits who live in a large castle in a forest. Ronia studies the ways of the mysterious creatures who live in the forest. And that's it. And then, let's see. Yuki Yuna wa Yusha de Arao, slice of life from Studio Gokumi. Starts October 17th and is an original series. The story takes place in the era of the gods, year 300. Yuna Yuki lives in an ordinary life as a second-year middle school student, but she's also a member of the Hero Club, where club activities involve dealing with a mysterious being called Vertex. And then there's a second season of Mushishi Zoko Show. That's really basically all it says. So, there you go. And there's some OVA stuff coming out as well, which we're kind of going along here, so I'll just kind of skim over that. But there's your look at fall 2014, and basically some of the stuff we'll be talking about next time we reconvene for the fourth episode of the Seasonal Anime Checkup. So I want to thank my special guests, Haley and Chris, for providing their views of Summer Anime 2014. I'd like to thank you for listening, because you're awesome, and hopefully you get some sort of insight from this. I can only hope. And yeah, that's going to do it for the third episode of the Seasonal Anime Checkup. Here's where I'm going to plug our guests from the show today. If you want to go follow Haley, she is shorty-cake.tumblr.com. If you want to go follow Chris, he is tcchrisross.tumblr.com, or you can visit his website at astartbselect.com. If you want to follow me, I am jaredclemens.tumblr.com, at Ragbag on Twitter. And if you want to follow our podcast, go listen to some of the other ones, listen to previous episodes of the Seasonal Anime Checkup. You can find us on iTunes. Go search in the store, search Mark Out Dark Out, and that'll get you right where you need to be, and you can subscribe or download any episode you want. Or if you want to go listen to any past episode, or any different podcast that we run on the web, you can go to soundcloud.com/markoutdarkout, and that'll take you right to the SoundCloud page that we have, and it'll give you every single podcast that we've done so far. And I will see you at the end of the fall season, where we'll look back at fall and look forward to winter 2014/2015. I'll see you next quarter. 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 I'll see you next quarter.